I love checking out, reflecting, and breaking down the top winning decks from official Dragon Ball Super Fusion World events. And today we're doing just that with looking at the top 8 winning leaders and deck lists in the most recent UKTC Fusion Worlds regionals. But before we get into that, a huge shout out to our boy Lore Swamp, who competed in this very regionals and placed top 18 out of 62 players. Well done. And with that, don't forget to like and subscribe if this is your type of content. And now let's jump right into it with breaking down the top 8 leaders chart. Now in the super tiny fine print here, it looks like out of the top 8 final leaders, we had 1 Bardock, 1 Beerus, 1 Android 17 surprisingly, and then 1 blue starter deck Vegeta. Now the other two, we had 2 Deadkus as well as 2 Jirens, with Jiren winning it all and that starter blue Vegeta coming in second. Now these are going to be some really interesting deck lists, and I want to see how these competitive official events translate to the deck lists we're seeing on the digital clients, starting with the 8th place Bardock deck list. And it honestly looks very similar to the top 5 deck lists that you'll see on the digital client with Bardock in this last video that I just uploaded. You're seeing 4 Kakarots, which are very good for helping you manipulate your energy markers. You have your draws. However, we have 8 total copies of our 1-drops that draw for us with the Son Goku Childhood BR as well as Fasha. We have Giru here and the Para brothers. Now, all of these cards here on the top row, it's very important to remember that they synergize with the Hercule GT, which you can essentially just bring them back. I said this before the set drop, I really like the Hercule GT. It's not as strong as Pilaf, however, it also doesn't have the disadvantage of needing 7 cards in your hand to activate this effect. So it honestly might actually be a little bit better than Pilaf in that consideration. Throwing the fact that you have 4 copies of this pen that helps us bounce back other cards like Jiren. We have our Self-Awakeners here, the 3-drop Son Goku, 4 Bardocks, 4 secret rare Son Gokus. Shout out to this player who I'm assuming drew, pulled them from packs or bought them. I don't know how much these are going for. Let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully these were just the base copies of them, because I can imagine that the alt arts might have been a little bit expensive, right? And then we have 3 copies of the double striking Bardock, which is an amazing card, and then our 4 super combos and the 10 times Kamehameha. 3 copies with this. And when you look at this, you have how many cards that manipulate your energy marker. You have 4, you have 8, you have another 4 here, so 12. But remember, you also have Hercule, so that 12 essentially becomes a 16. So you kind of have 16 cards that give you an opportunity to bring back your energy marker, as well as 4 of those cards being your secret rare that can just do it every turn when attacking. A really strong deck that I am definitely not surprised to see in the top 8. Now moving on to the 7th place, and we actually have Beerus here, which surprises me tremendously because it doesn't have as much damage reduction as you would typically see with Beerus leaders on the digital client. There's no Fuwas, you don't even have your 2-drop Caulifla, which makes me feel like this is a more consistent, competitive counterplay for Beerus. You have 8 copies of your 1-drop draws. I feel like that's going to be a kind of a consistent theme here going into these top 8 deck lists. But on top of that, we have 3 copies of the 1-drop Whis that reduces by 5k on play, but also gives you 10k combo. We have our Krillin here, a Self-Awakener. We have Hit, another Self-Awakener. We have 2 of the 3-drop Son Gokus right here that also help you Self-Awaken. There's a lot of Self-Awakeners here, so I don't think we're trying to take advantage of that crit with this deck, which is also probably why we don't have the Cauliflas. Now, other cards that are interesting is this Beerus here, that if you don't know is a very strong 3-cost card that also is a Self-Awakener, that when you have at least 4 energy active, you can play this, attack, use your effect, and then bring your 5-cost Beerus, attack again, blow up their side of the board. It's a very strong card. We have 3 copies of that. We have our 3 double strikers that synergize really well with Margarita towards the end of the game, but also let's not forget about this Vegeta here, which they're running 3 copies. Now this could be late game, but also you could apply pressure to force your opponent to use all of their super combos from their hand. You could synergize this with things like your Margarita, or even think of it this way. If by 6 energy, you've already played your Son Goku, so you have a double striker on the board. They're not rested, they're just alive and active. And then you play play your Kefla, well, Kefla can bring out your Vegeta. Kefla just drew you a card, so you essentially only have to discard one other card, and now you're swinging with some insane power on your side. And on top of all that, we have 3 1-cost Kamehamehas. A very interesting Beerus deck that I'm on. Like I said, there's not a whole ton of damage reduction, which you would typically expect with Beerus. But at the end of the day, this got 7th place at the UK regionals. But now let's check out the Jiren, which got 6th place. And I'm actually very interested to compare this Jiren deck list with the 1st place Jiren deck list. Now, right off the bat, again, there's so many 1-drop draws. This deck is running 7 of them, and it makes sense to me. There's actually a lot of weird numbers here. This deck makes sense to me to run that because when you awaken, you can't draw anymore. So having a card like that is very advantageous. We have 2 copies of each Whis, one for essential control. We have 4 copies of our Caulifla, as well as 2 copies of Hit, Self-Awakening. We have 2 copies of Fua. This is looking like a very control-heavy Jiren deck list. Top of that, we have a secret rare Son Goku, might be better for late game potential. We have a single Beerus to board wipe, 3 Room Shees, as well as 3 double strikers. Now, of course, we have our 4 copies of Jiren SR here, which, like, come on now, of course we need those, right? But looking at the rest of the deck list, maybe the extra cards are kind of interesting here. I did not think Sphere of Destruction would be good outside of like in niche situations. But again, this is the 6th deck in the top 8. So this card right here for 2 energy, you get to choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 25k power or less, knock them out. Then if your opponent's life is at force or if they're stalling, send them to 3. There's 2 copies of this. So again, I think it's very situational, but this pilot with this deck made it work tremendously. On top of that, we have Kefla with the 3-drop Son Gohan, as well as the 3-drop Policeman. I will never be able to say this name. And yeah, no, this is a very, very interesting 6th place Jiren deck list. Now let's look at the 2nd Deadku that did really well. And yeah, this is a staple Satan City deck list. You have your Peel-Offs, you have your Erasa, Sharpener, Hercules, Videls. Nothing here is too crazy, honestly. The only thing that I think is very interesting is the Great Saiyaman. On the ladder, you don't really quite see this often, but it does have a very nice effect. Like, I personally like this, especially if you swarmed your board with a bunch of Satan City battle cards, extra cards, like that special trait. There's like a ton of them. You can activate main, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with a cost less than or equal to the number of cards of Satan City in their special traits in your battle arena, and then bottom deck them. So like if you have at least 4, you can bottom deck Jiren. If you have 5, you can bottom deck a double striker. 6, 7, 8, you see what you can do here? But then you could also synergize that with something like your Vegeta, which reduces the cost of your opponent's cards. And you could do some spicy things, to be honest. We have a single Final Hope Slash, which I'm guessing synergizes with Peel Off here. But then don't forget the new Videl, which also synergizes with every single 3 cost or less Earthling. We have 1 double striker, I'm assuming to close out games, as well as 2 Vegetos. And then Sickle City Gohan here is pretty strong. But we have this and the Great Saiyaman, which synergize with Orange Star High School, which with the leader's ability, you could essentially play these cards for free and get a free 30k body on the board. Really good control, really good swarm tactics, as well as searchability of your deck. All in all, I really like Deadku's like ability to work with their special trait to get the most out of this. And that's 5th place. Now we're going to be moving on to top 4 with androids. And let's see. Yep, nothing here is from set 3, which is insane. Like, think about it. This got top 4 out of 62 people using nothing but cards from set 1 and set 2. Like, there's nothing you need to even really go over here. You have your 4 Son Gohans, which could be interesting, right? And your 2 Big Bang attacks. I'd imagine these 2 in like synergizing together are really good going into something like Jiren, because like you can use one of them and then KO the other ability and it's just gone. You don't have to worry about it. And again, you have your double androids, which knock out things. You have your big Broly here, which knocks out things. You have your double androids 4 drops, which helps you ramp up tremendously, as well as this Trunks Future, which on turn 4 or turn 3, whenever you have that 4 energy and play this card, you can then just play this if you want to. And if you have at least 5 energy, well then guess what? You're gonna get 6. So it's really good to help you ramp consistently and very fast. Not surprised Androids is in top 8, but still kind of surprised that there's no set 3 cards. That's just how good and consistent this leader is. You don't need anything new. Just use, if it's not broke, don't fix it, you know? Which brings us to the top 3. The 3rd deck list is another Deadku leader. And this one's a little bit different. See, let's compare it to the other one real quick. I'm going to move these together. This one does not have the Great Saiyaman, right? And this has a little bit less variety in this deck. This one was the top 5 and this is the top 3 here. So when we're looking at the top 3, we have our critical Self-Awakener. We have another double striker. We have 2 Zenos. But on top of all that, we also have 2 Sinister Sickle. So this one did a little bit better than the other Deadku. And all it has going for it is just a little bit more board control in the form of Sinister Sickle, in the form of Zeno, and in the form of Vegeta, if you really think about it, because that's controlling the opponent's life. They're either going to have to waste cards from their hand to combo and not take a critical, or you're just sending their cards to their drop, which is pretty strong considering I don't think there's another card in blue that kind of does this for 2 energy, crit, and a Self-Awakener. This Vegeta is a very strong new card for set 3. So yeah, this one just has a little bit more control and a little bit more variety in their deck list, which brings us to the top 2. And yep, another blue leader right here. Vegeta, starter blue Vegeta, got 2nd place out of 62 players and a ton of Jirens, right? So you already know this is going to be tremendous. I'm just looking at the super combos. That's really funny. I mean, that's probably why they play so well, because they're flexing one super combo of each. Honestly, I feel like you kind of have to. But yeah, let's check this out real quick. You have 4 Gallic Guns. You have 3 Sinister Sickles. Only 1 Zeno. Okay, that's interesting. You have 2 Double Strikers. And this is actually running the no skill vanilla set. That's so fascinating. So it has the option to be very controlling, to prevent your opponents from enacting any of their strategies with you bottom decking their cards. And then on top of that, we have our Videl here that can bring out your cards for 1 energy, like Gotenks, your Adolescence Gohan, or your Great Saiyaman. Like, that's pretty strong. We also have Trunks here, which I'll be honest, I have not seen since set 1. And I think you guys can agree with me. Like, this was so strong set 1, and it just, when the world needed him, he vanished, right? Like, no one played this anymore. But now you're looking at the top 2 deck list, and they brought it back. A Self-Awakener that also bounces a 5 cost. Pretty strong, honestly. We have 2 of our crit Self-Awakeners here. We have 4 Vegetos, 3 Vegetos secret rares, our peel off engine, as well as the 1-drop Zamasu. This is a very interesting deck list for Vegeta. I kind of want to run it on the digital client and test it out, but it definitely has a lot of variety and tools to either go very aggro or control the board and take your time. And I like having that option when going into a matchup that you don't know who you're going up against. Like, do you need to control the game, or can you just close out? Because again, remember, your leader, once awakened, has a 35k swing, super aggressive. So you can go extremely aggressive if you need to. Yeah, very much like this deck list. And like I said, I might be testing this out real soon, which brings us to our 1st place leader. And here it is, Jiren, right? And we're, like I said, we're going to compare it to the other Jiren. So this Jiren, I'm going to flip it so we know which one. This is the 1st place awakened Jiren. Looking at it, it kind of looks the same, to be honest. Looking at the past one, this one had an extra draw card. This one has nothing too crazy here. Yeah, the only thing difference is some of these cards are a little bit more, like 1 more Fua, 1 more Room Shi here. Still the same number of Beerus, 3 double strikers. Oh, and then when we look down here, only 1 Sphere of Destruction. So the 2 Jirens, goes to show you how much I know, the 2 Jirens who got top 8 were both running Sphere of Destruction. So here's an extra card that I was like is pretty niche, but maybe if you're playing Jiren is very valuable for you. So there you go. Definitely a card that you might want to run if you're building a Jiren deck. But then on top of that, they have the God Kamehameha for removal, which is honestly kind of interesting. I guess maybe you could use this to any of your advantage. You could use it even to going into SR Jirens in a mirror match, especially if you have at least 6 energy, no battle cards on the board. Play this, KO it, it doesn't KO, then play Room Shi, it's gone. So I think there is application there, but it's pretty similar to the, what was it? The 6th place Jiren, just with a couple key differences. But yeah, this is the number 1, the winner, the 1st place deck list, Jiren, which a lot of people thought was going to happen. Like, Jiren is pretty strong, but because Jiren is so strong, you saw cards like, where is it? This is not the 2nd place Vegeta, the 3rd place Deadku. They're doing so well because Jiren calls for that. It calls for a counterplay, a anti-red deck, if you will. But a very interesting top 8 decks nonetheless. nonetheless. But there you have it. Let me know what you guys think of the top 8 deck lists for the UKTC Fusion Worlds Regional. Which one surprised you the most, and which one are you not surprised at all by? And don't forget to like and subscribe if this is your type of content, and I will catch you guys in the next one.